Quint.
Good morning. You're watching All You Need to Know on Bloomberg Quint Live, and I'm Alex Matthew. First, the headlines. Jet Airways has decided to temporarily shut operations after failing to secure emergency funding from its lenders. Mindtree's fourth quarter results largely met street estimates. The company announced a total dividend of 27 rupees per share. Wipro announced a 10,500 crore rupee share buyback plan after the company reported fourth quarter earnings. It has also guided for a weak first quarter in FY20. Reliance Industries may report a degrowth in profits for the first time in 17 quarters. The company will report results post-market hours today. And voters across 13 states and 95 seats will be exercising their franchise to vote during the second phase of the Lok Sabha polls that kicks off today. Let's talk about the US markets now. They ended marginally lower on Wednesday owing to deep cuts in the healthcare sector. The healthcare sector fell 2.9%, adding to the 2% drop on Tuesday. Sentiment remained subdued despite strong quarterly earnings from some companies. Renita Young of Bloomberg News brings you all the action from Wall Street in this report.
U.S. markets are lower as the stock market rally fades on a healthcare rout. The S&P 500 also near that key 2,900 level, and the latest batch of corporate earnings doing very little to boost confidence in the U.S. economy. Now, healthcare stocks crumbled today as politicians debated the concept of Medicare for all Americans, and that kind of overshadowed the latest earnings results. But we know Morgan Stanley rose to the highest since October after posting very solid earnings results, and IBM dragged down the Dow after posting lower sales for the year, and PepsiCo climbing to a record high after posting solid results. Abbott Laboratories lower even though it posted pretty good results, but it might be lowering in sympathy with healthcare stocks. Netflix reversing gains after posting weak subscriber view, but it also has more competitors in the video streaming services space. More earnings continue with BB&T, American Express, and Honeywell, among others. Meanwhile, the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield turned lower after climbing to a 4-week high. The U.S. dollar fading versus major currency competitors amid data showing the U.S. trade gap unexpectedly narrowed, and the Bloomberg Dollar Index ending slightly lower. And that's a look at your Wednesday Wall Street action. In New York, I'm Renita Young for Bloomberg News.
All right, let's also take a check on the Asian markets. I'm joined live by Sophie Kamruddin from the Bloomberg studios in Hong Kong. Morning, Sophie. How are we looking today?
Well, this Thursday, Asian stocks are trading mixed ahead of the long Easter break. We got shares in Japan and South Korea drifting lower, while Australian shares are eking out gains. Now, here in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng is off 0.2%, while the Shanghai Composite is down 0.2% as well, amid speculation that Chinese regulators may add more stimulus measures to boost sectors like autos as well as electronics. Now, across the region, we are seeing a drop in pharmaceutical companies, especially those that rely on U.S. sales, amid concerns of policy changes that sparked a rout in American healthcare stocks overnight. Now, over in Seoul, the Kospi is continuing to fall after halting a 13-day rally. We have Samsung, the biggest drag there, as some analysts flag caution over the recent rally in chip-related companies, which will be put to the test when Taiwan's TSMC reports results today. And over in Sydney, I want to highlight Fortescue, which is rising after narrowing its iron ore shipments outlook due to the impact of the cyclone in Australia. And we are seeing the Aussie dollar jump this morning after the jobs reports beat estimates. Back to you.
Thanks so much for that, Sophie. Well, let's talk about some of the big headlines across the globe. Immediately, let's talk about the trade negotiations that are ongoing. Well, sources have told Bloomberg that the trade deal between the U.S. and China could be signed by the end of May. Senior officials from both sides are scheduling more talks in order to fine-tune the details of the deal that is meant to be signed by the U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese Premier Xi Jinping. Enda Karan of Bloomberg News tells you the latest in this report.
There's a choreography of events now being lined up. We will have the US Trade Representative Lighthizer and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin will head to Beijing week beginning April 29th for more discussions there. And then the week after, Vice Premier Liu will go to Washington, and that's the week where it's expected that a deal will be effectively sealed, if not quite signed, because Presidents Trump and Xi will meet in the weeks afterwards for a formal signing ceremony. So it does sound like we're moving towards the finishing stages. There is still some haggling going on around enforcement on both sides, and of course on which duties will be lifted. But by all accounts, some kind of a deal is in the works. That, of course, will then give way to a whole wave of analysis as to whether or not this agreement is durable and puts to bed all of these issues, or whether it's seen as a temporary fix and this much talked about Cold War between the US and China is set to continue.
All right, well, let's turn to India and the trade setup for the day. Darshan Mehta is joining me to tell you all about that and also to tell you what's happening in the futures and options space. Well, Darshan, taking cues from the US markets, healthcare seems to be a concern for them and some of the pharmaceutical players in Asia as well, but mostly subdued going into trade today. How are we looking?
So basically, we were on a holiday yesterday and we could have taken cues from there, but yesterday the SGX Nifty didn't move much. It was up 10 points in today's trade. It's up 14 points. It's up 4 points. So expect a very, very muted open as far as we are concerned. The Asian markets are not doing well, so probably there will be selling pressure probably at higher levels that could probably come in. But the momentum is strong. We're trading at record highs, so you never know whether any kind of dips will be bought in. But the opening probably will be muted. Not a blockbuster opening expected. The other factor is, let's see how the ADR spanned out in trade yesterday, because we were short, but the US markets were open in trade. So Tata Motors continues its good run, which was up 2%. Vedanta, Dr. Reddy's, Infosys, all of them doing well in trade. The only stock that didn't do well was ICICI Bank. The ADR was down almost 0.2%, so flat in trade. But apart from it, the ADR picture was also rather muted in trade. Now, how did we end up the trade as far as Tuesday was concerned? So basically, while the mid cap and small cap index didn't do well, certain stocks on the Nifty did manage the Nifty to move up almost 100 points to record highs. We'll have the data which stocks had moved and that caused the Nifty to move up. Nifty Bank was up almost 1.2%, the clear outperformer, but it was the private sector banks that led the rally because the PSU banking index was down in trade. So a lot of these private sector banks even helped the Nifty move in much higher in trade. The other factor is the fund flows. 1,000 crores of buying by the FIs in the cash market. DI has bought in almost 37 crores in the market. In terms of which were the contributors, look at it, it was basically the banks. HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank and IndusInd Bank contributed to major move as far as the Nifty is concerned. L&T after many days managed to contribute, so that is why the Nifty Bank managed to outperform the Nifty also in trade. What didn't do well, Infosys reacted negatively to the numbers. Wipro ahead of the numbers was down in trade. Wipro could be mixed because the numbers were not the best in trade, but the buyback is clearly there. That would provide support for the counter, but overall it was the banks that led the rally for the Nifty. The other factor that we need to watch out is how did the F&O market pan out in trade. Clearly on the Nifty, fresh buying was seen. Open interest was up almost 1%. Pull up the Nifty Bank, that saw open interest build up of 5% on the long side. So as we pointed out, the banks, especially the private sector banks, did well in trade. Now if you're looking at where positions are being taken, clearly is the put writers that active from 10,500 right up to 10,800 and the SGX Nifty is indicating that probably we will open above the 10,800 mark only. Call writers are active from 10,800 to higher levels, but at this point of time it's the bulls or the put writers which have the market with them. Again, since the market rallied 100 points at 10,700, 10,800, the call writers were forced to shed positions in open interest. Put writers were active at 11,700 and 11,800 in the markets on Tuesday. How did the VIX pan out? Again, at the levels of close to 22 now, so the volatility is higher for the Nifty at this point of time. Again, the PCR managed to move up 1.82 versus 1.61 on the Nifty. These are the stocks in the F&O ban. So IDBI Bank, Jet Airways continue to be in the ban. Jet Airways again will be in focus today. PC Jewelers, Reliance Power, again continue to be in the ban. The new stock that comes in the F&O ban is Vodafone Idea, which was up almost 6% in trade on Tuesday. And these are the counters that go out of the F&O ban. There is Divan Housing, which was very active, and Wockhardt, which has managed to do well of late. So these two counters come out of the F&O ban. Which were the counters which saw high open interest build up? PVR at record highs, open interest build up of 13%. Again, you have counters like Coal India, which saw fresh buying, and fresh shorts were seen in Reliance Capital because of a big block deal that happened. Cummins India and Wipro saw fresh shorts. In terms of counters, which saw open interest decline, PC Jewellers clearly on a roll. Short covering seen on PC Jewellers, short covering seen on DCB Bank. It had fallen all the ways to level of 120. Results are there today, so will be in focus. Torrent Power, UPL again seeing fresh short covering that came in, and Apollo Hospital seeing minor short covering. Open interest was down 10%.
Thanks so much for that, Darshan. Well, let's talk about the big story from yesterday. Jet Airways has suspended all operations with effect from today after it failed to secure emergency funding from lenders. Now, remember that the airline had already stopped international flights when its fleet was whittled down to 6 aircraft. Vishwanath Nair is joining us on the phone line with the latest. Vishy, this has been a little while coming, and they were losing aircraft along the way. The surprise was when they didn't get the emergency funding that was meant to come, and they just couldn't pull operations forward anymore. What can we look at with regard to the bidding process now?
Right, Alex. So at this point in time, the emergency funding that the bankers had originally promised in March had been withdrawn. Now, we have reported in the past that this was primarily because bankers were not too keen on doing this for fear of prosecution by investigative agencies, which has been quite, investigative agencies have been quite active in this space, especially when it comes to stressed accounts. They've not really let bankers do their job. That's what the bankers have complained, and they've questioned every decision that the bankers have taken. So now that this decision to not fund Jet Airways at this point in time has been taken, we are waiting to see what is going to happen with the bidding process, which currently is ongoing. There is a due diligence process that is ongoing. Right now, the lenders are trying to figure out who are the major bidders who might be very keen on investing in Jet Airways. Once they've done that, they will share the bid documents with all these bidders. And by the 10th of May, these bidders are supposed to submit their final bid. And once those final bids are in, is when we'll know how much interest actually exists for Jet Airways in the market, and whether these bidders will be able to give the right value that the bankers are looking for, so that they can sell the account and then recover the loan, as well as the airline continues to operate as a going concern.
All right, thanks so much for that, Vishy. Of course, Vishy will be on top of that story, and he'll bring you all the updates as and when they get here. You'll find them on bloombergquint.com. Now, let's also talk about Wipro now. Wipro will buy back shares worth 10,500 crore rupees. But what does it intend to do with the large remainder of cash on the books even after the share buyback? Here's an excerpt from a chat that we had with CFO Jatin Dalal that could answer that question.
So we have, as of Q4, and gross cash on the balance sheet of something like 38,000 crores. We have debt of something like 10,000 crores. So net cash is 28,000 crores. That's a sizable cash that we have even after 10,500 crores being sort of used for buyback, and that is available to us for our fixed assets, investments, that is available for us for any M&A that we want to do. It just gives us flexibility to pursue whatever we want to pursue strategically.
I think M&A is specifically something that Wipro is aggressive about. So anything in the pipelines for that we can expect?
There's always something in pipeline.
Any kind of guidance that you would like to give on what sectors?
Yeah, see, we don't look at sectors. We look at capability. We look at customer access. We look at niche, sharp, differentiated skill set available in some sort of critical mass, and that's what we go after. So, as I said, there's always something which is in pipeline. That's how we run our M&A. But we look at 3 fits finally. We look at cultural fit, we look at financial fit, and most importantly, strategic fit. If all 3 are ticks, then certainly we go for it. All
right, sticking with the IT space, Mindtree shareholders should be a happy lot. the board has decided to pay a total dividend of 27 rupees a share. A large chunk of that, though, will come up for shareholder approval in the next annual general meeting. This also comes approximately a month before L&T makes an open offer for the company. So does the dividend payout change things for L&T? Agam Vakil takes you through the details.
Well, on the event of Mindtree announcing its fourth quarter and FY19 earnings, it's also laid out a very interesting plan of dividends. Firstly, its board has approved an interim dividend of 3 rupees per share, and the record date for this is set on the 27th of April. And the board has also proposed two dividends. One is a special dividend of 20 rupees per share and another final dividend of 4 rupees per share, which is going to be taken up in the upcoming annual general meeting, where the management has indicated will be somewhere around June, July. Now, the reason why this is interesting is because the last time we saw a reasonably large dividend payout was at 10 rupees per share, and this was back in 2015. It also comes during very interesting circumstances, given that Mindtree had actually called off a buyback very recently following L&T's hostile bid for the company. Now, this total outgo for the dividends stands at around 443 odd crores, and if you actually consider the dividend distribution tax as well of around 90 crores added to this, it comes to roughly around 550 crores. The company has also suggested that it has cash of as much as 1,050 crores on its books, which means that if it does go ahead and pay out these dividends, it will mean half the cash as things stand on its balance sheet currently. Now, this does lead to a few very interesting questions when it comes to the circumstances with respect to L&T and Mindtree. Firstly, with respect to Mindtree, well, how will the investors of Mindtree react to this hefty dividend? Two, to what extent has the recent up move in Mindtree already factored in this dividend, and how will Mindtree's stock open on trading day? And three, will this prompt Larsen & Toubro to perhaps reconsider its open offer price, either to factor in this cost of cash that will move out, or perhaps even to further sweeten the deal? These are the few questions that certainly will play out not only on the investors' minds but as well as the management's too.
All right, now, while that might have been the focus, it also turns out that they had their quarterly earnings to report, and Agam Vakil will also take you through the cliff notes of those earnings.
Well, so as far as the earnings for this particular quarter go, Mindtree has come in largely in line with consensus, considering its revenues rose around 2.9% sequentially. We're also looking at a significant drop in margins because of several factors, coming in at around 12.9% against 13.6%. Net profit, however, coming to 198 crores, up 3.7% sequentially. Again, when it comes to revenues and profitability in line, there has been a little bit of a miss when it comes to margins on account of various issues. Well, one of them, of course, is currency, and also, higher people's costs that have, had an impact on operating margins for this particular quarter. In terms of outlook, the company suggests that it looks to grow in a lower mid to a mid-teens in terms of revenues, and it is also looking to improve its operating margins by as much as 100 basis points. On the whole, a fairly stable quarter for Mindtree. No fireworks here, and in line with consensus expectations.
All right, sticking with earnings and talking about the big boy, Reliance Industries' bottom line may decline for the first time in 4 years, mainly due to the anticipated drop in refining margins. To take you through all of the key highlights that you have to watch out for, Somit Sarkar is joining us now. Somit, why the fall? It was on expected lines, though.
Well, yes, it was on expected lines given the fact that we had seen a drop in the refining margins. Now, we'll start off with the headline numbers for the standalone business of Reliance Industries. So, compared to last quarter, if you see, the revenue is expected to be down by nearly 7% to close to 93,300 crore rupees, while the EBITDA is expected to drop by nearly 6% to close to 13,700 crore rupees. Now, this would be the third consecutive fall in the company's EBITDA, while the margins, they are expected to remain largely stable at close to 14.7%. Now, the net profit of the company, that is expected to fall by nearly 5% to close to 8,490 crore rupees. Now, this would be the first drop in Reliance Industries net profit in the last 17 quarters. So what will lead to this? Firstly, I'll start off with the refining business. Now, the gross refining margins, now they are expected to be lower by nearly 9% to close to $8 per barrel, and that is because of the global weakness seen, and that was because of the excess inventory and a lower demand in the Asian markets. That the Singapore GRMs at the Asian benchmark, they averaged lower at around $3.2 per barrel. However, compared to the global benchmark, Reliance Industries GRM would be a tad better, and that is because of the lower LNG prices that we had seen in the Asian market. As you can see, the premium to Singapore gross refining margin is expected to expand to nearly $4.8 per barrel in the fourth quarter. Now, overall lower GRMs and a lower throughput would weigh on the company's refining earnings. Now, the throughput or the volume numbers are expected to be lower because of a plant shutdown and lower fuel demand in Asia. Now, for the petrochemical business, if you see, some weakness is expected there too. After performing for the last 8 consecutive quarters, in the fourth quarter, the earnings from this segment is expected to be weak, and that is because of the weak pricing environment. Now, the petrochemical earnings are expected to decline as polythene prices declined due to a short-term oversupply that we had seen in the market, and also because of the weakness seen in the polyester spreads. Among the other factors, the upstream segment performance is expected to be weak yet again because of weak volumes. On the consolidated side, if you see, the interest cost is expected to remain flat due to a stronger rupee, while a higher contribution from Jio and retail is expected to boost the overall performance of the company. Now, the key things to watch out for from Reliance Industries earnings would include the update on the status of the Petco gasifier project, the margin outlook both on refinery and the petchem segment, and additional updates on the InvIT structure, valuations of Jio Fiber and the tower assets would be the key things to watch out for from Reliance Industries earnings.
Sumit, we're talking about Jio as well. What are the expectations for this quarter?
For Jio, if you see, the revenues are expected to be high by nearly 10% to close to 11,400 crore rupees. EBITDA is expected to be high by nearly 11%, while the margins are expected to improve marginally to 39.4%. Now, the net profit of the company is expected to rise nearly 17% to close to 973 crore rupees. And the key number for Reliance Jio, that is the average revenue per user, that is expected to come in at around 129 rupees. Now, this will be for the 6th consecutive quarter where the company's ARPU is expected to decline, but at a smaller rate compared to the earlier quarters. Now, the overall Jio's earnings are expected to improve on the back of the strong subscriber additions that we have been seeing. Now, the subscriber base at the end of the fourth quarter is expected to be around 31 crore rupees for 31 crore for Jio, as against 28 crore subscribers at the end of the December ended quarter. Now, this strong subscriber addition is completely on the back of the lower ARPU plans of the company. As you can see in the chart, the strong subscriber additions have been diluting the company's ARPU in the last 6 quarters. Lastly, the margins, now that would see a slight expansion benefiting from the lower fuel costs in the fourth quarter of financial year 2019. Now, the key things to watch out from Jio earnings would include management commentary on Jio phone offtake, any commentary on tariffs, their capital expenditure plans for financial year 2020, and the commentary on the rollout of the home broadband business would be the key things to watch out for from the Reliance Jio earnings today.
All right, thanks for that, Sumit. Well, Mishika Parak is joining us now with the stocks in news. Mishika, clearly Reliance is going to be at the center of action today, not just because of the earnings. It's also what you're going to talk about first, I believe.
Yes, it is. There are a number of stocks that are making news today. First one is, of course, Reliance. So Reliance is planning to weigh selling a stake sale of its refinery unit to the Saudi Arabian Oil Company and Abu Dhabi National Oil Company in a deal that could fetch at least $10 billion, as reported by Bloomberg. Ashoka Buildcon receives an order worth 443 crore rupees from RVNL with completion period of 36 months. And Adani Enterprises CFO Rakesh Suryakant Shah has filed for his resignation. Quess Corp subsidiary CBSL to acquire Allsec Technologies, the company to buy promoter stake of 35% at rupees 320. Quess will also acquire First Carlyle Ventures stake of 26% at 250 rupees and make an open offer at 320 rupees per share. Share prices of Allsec Technologies are trading at 305 rupees per share, 300.5 rupees per share, and Quess Corp will invest 403 crore rupees in CBSL, which is a subsidiary of Quess, by subscribing to equity shares and compulsorily convertible debentures. Then Bandhan Bank says Competition Commission of India has approved the merger scheme of the bank with Grah Finance. Star Cement says that it has received 175 crore rupees towards its freight subsidy claims from the central government. And lastly, let's look at the year-on-year Q4 results for Tata Steel BSL. Their revenues were up 22.7% at 5,517 crore rupees. EBITDA is up 3% at 786 crore rupees, and EBITDA margins are at 14.2% compared to 17% last year.
Thanks for that, Mishika. Well, 13 states, 95 seats and over 1,500 candidates. I'm of course talking about the second phase of the 7-phase Lok Sabha polls that has begun today. Now, polling in Tamil Nadu's Vellore was cancelled after the income tax officials seized cash worth over 11 crore from a local DMK leader's office. Polling was also cancelled in the Tripura East Lok Sabha constituency owing to law and order problems. Now, as per the Election Commission, Tamanna Namdar is bringing you all the updates that you need to know with regard to this phase of polls. You'll of course find all the live market action over the course of the day, and in fact all the election coverage on the website as well. Here are all the things that you need to know with regard to this second phase. Have a great long weekend. This is Bloomberg Quint.
The second phase of the big Indian election is another crucial battle for control at the center. And here's why. But first, the numbers. There will be polling in 38 seats, all except Vellore, there are 39 in all, and I'm not counting Puducherry here. There will also be voting in 18 assembly constituencies, and these by-polls are crucial to the survival of the current government. That is why Tamil Nadu is so important. Also because it's a big chunk of 38 seats, and there's a head-to-head fight between two blocks of parties representing, in a sense, the national battle. It's also the first big election without two huge political figures in the state. Both M. Karunanidhi and Jaya Jayalalita have passed away since the last Lok Sabha election here. While Stalin, Karunanidhi's son, has taken over the DMK, the AIADMK has been floundering to, sort of fill that political gap in their party, and that's why it's a big fight. It's also very interesting because look at the alliances and the breakup between them. On the one side, you have the DMK and the Congress and the others, of course. It's a broader alliance going up against AIADMK, which has supported the BJP and, of course, other parties in the fray. So whichever of these two sides corners the chunk of these 38 seats in Tamil Nadu could have a big say in who forms the next government over here. One possible trouble for the DMK might be that it could have perhaps given away too many seats to the Congress, which has never traditionally been a big player in the state of Tamil Nadu. But that's not the only state going to elections. So let's take you through some of the big fights and key contests to watch out for in phase 2. Let's start with Amravati in Maharashtra, where Shiv Sena strongman Anand Rao Adsul goes up against Navneet Kaur Rana. This is going to be an interesting election for Maharashtra specifically because in this phase there are a lot of areas going to polls which have been hit by drought, which have seen the worst of farmer distress, and these are big issues which will come to the fore, which is why it's a challenge for leaders like Anand Rao Adsul. Let's take a look at some other constituencies in the state. Nanded is a big one. Ashok Chavan's stronghold. It's Ashok Chavan's stronghold, and in fact he managed to win from here even in the midst of the Modi wave. He goes up against Pratap Govind Rao of the BJP. The other big constituency to look out for is Bid. Again, this is a family bastion, and Gopinath Munde was the big leader who came from here. After he passed away in 2014, his second daughter Preeta Munde stood in the by-polls and won with the largest ever margin in Indian electoral history. Over 6,23,000 votes was her margin. Banjrang Sonavane has the task of challenging her in the Bid district. But again, it's not going to be easy because farmer distress is a big issue here. Drought is a big issue here. And the BJP and the Shiv Sena that have been in power will be held up to see if they've actually managed to alleviate that distress. Let's move to Uttar Pradesh and some seats there. Mathura is always an exciting one, and of course with Hema Malini in the fray, it adds that a bit of glam and color. We've all seen, the actress, the erstwhile actress campaigning in Mathura. She beat Jayant Chaudhary of RLD here in 2014. So, ridden on the Modi wave. Jayant Chaudhary is not fighting from Mathura this time. He's moved to Bagpat, but he's left the charge of beating Hema Malini to Narendra Singh. Mahesh Pathak is in the fray from the Indian National Congress. The other big seat and one of the strong seats relatively for the Congress in UP, apart from Raebareli and Amethi, is the Fatehpur Sikri seat. Both Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra have campaigned in this seat for Raj Babbar. He's a big face of the Congress in UP, was the chief for quite some time. He will go up against Rajkumar Chair of the BJP. And this is one of the few seats in UP where it's a head-to-head fight between the BJP and the Congress. Let's take a look at some other key seats here. And of course, we've been talking about Tamil Nadu. Former minister in the NDA government, Ambumani Ramadas, goes up from Dharmapuri. And this has been sort of a strong seat and safe seat for him. He's up against Senthil Kumar of the DMK. Let's look at some of the other seats here from the state. This is going to be an interesting one. Sivaganga. Both the Congress and the BJP have got this seat in their kitty from the AIDMK and DMK. And Karthi Chidambaram, of course, will be fighting under this cloud. He is former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram's son, has been accused, of violations of law in the INX case, etc. Goes up against H. Raja of the BJP. This is going to be one of those key fights and prestige battles for the Congress. This is, of course, the big one in Tuticorin. Kani Modi, M. Karunanidhi's daughter, Stalin's sister, goes up against the BJP party chief in the state, Tamil Sai Soundarajan. And as I told you, her residences were raided just before, a couple of days before the polls. So that's going to be a big fight. Another big seat to look out for, M. Thambi Durai, who has been Deputy Speaker as well and key face in Parliament for the AIADMK. He will go up against S. Jyotimani from the Karur seat in Tamil Nadu. So some of the key seats there in the state. Let's take a look at some of the other key players that we're seeing in this battle and come to Karnataka. Now, this is an interesting one. Bangalore South, your IT city hub. And here you have very senior Congress leader B.K. Hari Prasad going up against 28-year-old Tejasvi Surya, who's shot to fame, at least on social media, because of some very strong polarizing comments he made on Twitter, etc. So it's going to be David versus Goliath in a sense, in a very key seat. Bangalore South, though, has been a strong BJP seat. So he may not have too much to worry about. Other key fights in Bengaluru, D.V. Sadanand Gowda, senior BJP leader, going up against Krishna Bhair Gowda, another senior leader from the Congress. That's going to be another seat to watch out for. Apart from this, of course, the big one is former Union Minister Veerappa Moily going up against B.N. Bachegowda in the Chikkabalapur seat in Karnataka. Another big battle, and this is again another key one. A very close aide of B.S. Yediyurappa, Shobha Karanlaje, will go up against Pramod Madhwaraj of the JDS in the Udupi seat, Udupi Lok Sabha constituency in Karnataka. Let's come to the other big battles that we're going to see in phase 2. Farooq Abdullah, National Conference patriarch and chief, goes up against Agha Saeed Mohsin of the PDP in Srinagar. There is a tie-up between the National Conference and the Congress in this election for the 6 seats in Jammu and Kashmir. The BJP has also put up a candidate, but generally in the valley, the contest will take place between the National Conference and the PDP. this is a pretty safe seat for Farooq Abdullah. Let's move to some other few seats, and we've tried to bring you the key candidates. Silchar in Assam is an interesting one. Sushmita Dev is up for re-election. She's hoping for a re-election from this seat. She's a rising star in the Congress, also the chief of the All India Mahila Congress, and she'll go up against Rajdeep Roy for the BJP. Another head-to-head fight here between the two national parties. Let's look at West Bengal. Some key seats from West Bengal as well coming in this phase. And the big names here, Raiganj, Mohammad Salim, big face from the CPIM, goes up against Deepa Das Munshi of the Indian National Congress, and of course the BJP and the Trinamool Congress are also in the fray. This is an interesting seat because there were attempts for the CPIM and the Congress to come together in this fight, which has become a four-way fight in West Bengal, but it didn't work out. This will be a interesting fight to watch out for. Another key seat in West Bengal that we've picked is the Darjeeling seat, for the simple reason that the BJP has managed to hold on to the seat since 2009. So even pre-Modi wave, Gorkhaland and a separate Gorkhaland is a big issue over here. The BJP has sort of been playing footsie with this issue and not been very clear on what its position is. So it'll be a tough fight for Raju Bista. He goes up against Amar Singh Rai of the Trinamool Congress, which has not been a hot favorite in Darjeeling either. Another close contest. So number of close contests coming in phase 2 of these elections. But the big one, of course, remains Tamil Nadu.
What is the meaning